Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
And my pleasure now to welcome back to the program Ralph McAlister. Good morning to you, sir.
No, it's very, very grey here, and so, okay, I'm okay, but as I was saying, you have to grab a few minutes when the rain's not about, so, but I think tomorrow's, sometime soon we're going to get a bit better, aren't we? Anyway, how are you?
I'm well, I'm excellent, and delighted that we're having our chat once again. Many people treasure this, and of course you, all in the sake of looking after our mental health, are examining the various literary diversions that we can indulge in. What are your recommendations today?
That's a very florid statement. And I have to mention, as you're saying that, the rubbish tin is driving just past my house.
You're so kind. You're so kind.
Now, listen, as kindness has been mentioned, my dear friend Kay at Paper Plus sent or got to me, for one way or another, very carefully, 3 proof copies of books for me to look at while I'm stuck, as everybody is, in their bubble. And so I just wanted to mention that because one of them I've just finished reading, and it's called Knife Edge. Very clever title. It's by Simon Mayo. I've not met him before, Mayo. And I have to start by just saying I read this with increasing worry and fear because it's a novel, it's a thriller, it's about terrorism, and it's about people plotting to kill people in the church in Coventry in England. So obviously for anybody, and I'm quite serious about this, if you have any sort of huge grief about what happened to our country in Christchurch, you won't read this. And I don't like to say that because the author is very talented. It's a very good thriller, but it does have some desperately upsetting scenes near the end, which remind you, and me, of course, graphically of Christchurch. So having said that, I don't want to be anything other than this was obviously written before Christchurch, and it's a good potboiler if you are okay with that sort of warning. And I don't usually get quite negative, but I really did get quite worried as I went on, thinking, should I go on reading this? And I did, and I finished it. And if one can say it's got a happy ending, well, it hasn't really. But Simon Mayo, Knife Edge, and sorry about that, Simon, but yeah, I think he's English, and well, he is obviously, but that has to be done with a warning. And of course, people are quite good at saying, well, I'm reading something like this to escape, and that's good, I think. What do you think?
I think that it is a very, very delicate thing, and it always has been, really. You wonder the effect on delicate minds who may be tipped over by, and particularly if it comes across that there's a lot of detail there, which gives you some idea about how to actually do it. That's what worries me. Quite apart from the art and the literary merits, it could well turn out to be a textbook, and that is a problem.
Yeah, and then, of course, if we start beginning to say, right, what would we do, censor things? Well, we get into that whole area of freedom of speech and whether or not something is being gratuitously written or to propagandize. It's a complex matter, and you're quite right. It is worrying, but I thought it was worth bringing up.
Thank you for that.
But I will flip straight to 1959. And one of my favorite authors, Graham Swift, whom some of your people might remember from Last Orders, which was a Booker-winning prize about ashes distributing and the guys in it, traveling around. And Graham Swift is this one is called Here We Are. And we're back in 1959 in Brighton, in England. And it's about the music hall and the shows that used to go on there with this sort of vanishing acts, which Ronnie Dean, who's the leader in the story, is a magician, and he is with Jack Robinson, a good friend, who's the compere, and Evie, his fiancée. He saws her in half in the middle of the show, of course.
Of course.
So,
as you do.
And it's musical, it's fun, but it's also touching. And if you know anything about Graham Swift, you know that he's got the most beautiful touch in his writing. He doesn't stretch the story out to too lengthy a detail. He writes about childhood and loneliness, and this boy is, of course, he's taken out of London, Ronnie, to outside to Brighton to be safe from the onslaught of after the war, and it's an evocation of Oxford, particularly, which I found quite gentle, quite touching. It's an elegiac story, John, of love of times past and present. And it's got the advantage, of course, a novelist who knows how to write and not overwrite. I've been struggling lately with and bemoaning about books that need desperately an editor, to cope with the superfluity of some of the writing, but Swift is not one of those. He catches the uncertainty, and the good thing is he flits back and forward from Evie, the woman who gets sawed in half, who's looking back because she does live, and she is looking back about 50 years later. So it puts me in mind of all these wonderful writers who say and believe and exemplify in the writing that less can be more, that you don't have to let us do some of the work as readers. And I've been a fan of Graham Swift for many years.
Wonderful.
And this one is just, I think will be, I'm not sure, it might have been released just before. No, yeah, it was. It's been released, so it should be available when we get past this lockdown. And I would recommend that to particularly any older listeners who want to evoke that late 50s period in England. And it's a joy.
Excellent. So that's sort of the end of the music hall era.
That's right. Which is what John Osborne did with The Entertainer about 10 years later. When he did that wonderful Laurence Olivier one. But no, that's what it is, and that's what you'll get, and you won't be disappointed if you trust my judgment.
We do, sir, and I'm sure we will not be disappointed. Lovely to join you. Thank you so much for your kind company, Ralph McAlister.
Thanks, John.
106.3 Beach FM.